Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another Quips and Thwips podcast. This is my semi regular Spider Man podcast where we kind of break down Spidey stuff. And today I figured let's do another Quips and Thwips because we had a Morbius trailer drop today. And Morbius is a Spider Man centric villain slash anti hero. I am joined by Count Von Count. How are you doing?
1, 2, 3, I'm great.
1, 2, 3. I'm great. Okay. And then from over at No Budget Productions, V Man.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
You guys excited to talk about Morbius? Because, we all know everything about Morbius, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was great. So, what you guys think of the trailer? Let's break it down. We don't have to watch the trailer, but have you guys seen the trailer? I know, Boss Man, you said you've seen the trailer. V Man, I'm assuming you've seen the trailer.
I like the trailer. To me, it was one of those things where I wasn't really knowing what to expect. I think we're kind of in a weird time for this whole thing, going with Venom, going with Spider-Man, Morbius. Like you're just not sure exactly what's going on with the whole universe / multiverse. And I think it's kind of an interesting time. You had sent me, because I'm of course not familiar with the character of Morbius, and when you sent me the kind of, hey, here's a catch up of the character, it was kind of interesting because he had he's friends with Reed Richards, he's friends with Doc Connor, there's a history with Doc Connors, he's got this history with all of these kind of sub characters and background characters, and not necessarily like the a lot of the necessarily the A-listers, but and I think that's kind of symbolic for where we stand with his place with the universe now, of with the universe in general, because there's a lot of like, where are we at in the universe today, and I think that's kind of where he started back then, of like it's just kind of in flux, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I saw a lot of parallels between where he started back then and kind of where he's starting now. I don't think it would have been the same had they made the movie 5 or 6 years ago. I don't think it would have been the same, but I feel like the feel of the character is going to be the same. I think there's a lot of parallels, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Gary, what did you think of the trailer?
I've got a couple of things. Well, first of all, I wasn't really interested in this film to begin with, because again, Morbius to me was always like a C-level, like Spider-Man character, villain, whatever you want to call it. Because, like, as I said, the only thing that I knew him from, I didn't even know him from the comics, was from the animated series from the 90s.
Oh, with the suction cup hands.
Yeah. Because he wasn't a proper vampire. That what he would do is he would touch people and absorb their body energy, or the plasma, or whatever it was.
Plasma, which is really funny because plasma is much harder to get than just blood. Like, plasma's like in like further. Like,
yes. So I understand why they did that, because they couldn't really have a proper vampire in a kids show.
Yeah.
But as I said, like, I could honestly say that this didn't really make me want to watch the film anymore, because again, it had 3 things in it that annoyed me. One was the fact that Jared Leto's in it, and he's one of my least favorite actors of all time. At the current moment, I don't know what it is about him, but there's something about him I just don't like. I can't put my finger on it. Well, I can't put my finger on it. He's one of those guys who uses I'm a method actor to get away with stuff that you just wouldn't be able to get away with otherwise. Like, when he sent people on Suicide Squad like a dead pig and send them like anal beads and use condoms and stuff. It's just like, yeah, not like you. Then the other thing that annoyed me was the fact that the trailer used People Are Strange by the Doors. Now, I'm not the biggest Doors fan in the world, but People Are Strange is a great song. It's also used in The Lost Boys, which is a great vampire film. This film isn't The Lost Boys, or doesn't look anywhere close to as good as that film. And the thing is that it doesn't deserve to use People Are Strange. And then the third thing that annoyed me was that I thought it was too dark. And I know people can say it's a vampire movie, but you can still get a spotlight and make it more locked. It just looks a bit too dark. I don't know what it is about the Sony Spider-Verse films, but everything seems to be very dark. Like Venom was very dark. I think Spider-Man, the last two, before the Tom Holland was dark, and then this was dark. I mean, you can see it's a dark film without the film being dark itself. You know what I mean? But that's just what I thought.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is very dark. That I will give you. My experience is, I knew of Morbius from the animated series, obviously, and then when I was collecting comic books, I got a shocking revelation that he's a legit vampire, not a hand sucker. He's not like Joe Biden, who's like trying to sniff people and suck on their head with his hands. So, so I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a very big contrast because my next time seeing him after the animated series was Maximum Carnage. Boy, was that a reality check. And I've seen him many other times throughout the years. I feel like his character is pretty underutilized because it's hard to translate a true blue vampire into a kid's show, especially in the animated series. It was just I never really liked him in the animated series just because I was like, what is this hand blood sucking vampire plasma thing? I don't know. I don't care. That's like Carnage. Carnage like sucked people's life energy out of them rather than actually killing them and slicing them up. It's like, okay, you're doing a half measure here, and it's almost like, why bother?
Because it's hard to keep it kid friendly.
Yeah, it is, and there are certain characters you shouldn't have kid friendly. Just don't do them at all. I know people want them, but it's like it sucks. So anyway,
but from what I remember about the animated series was that it was kind of like not a Jekyll and Hyde, but sort of like a Hulk situation where there was an accident and he got put with this thing, so he turned like a good man, because he was a good man, he had a fiance and all this sort of stuff, into this total monster that he needed people's energy to live, and that all he cared about was having this energy, and that all he needed was this energy. And the thing is, it is this proper tragic story that they told in the animated series. And again, I think it's important that kids saw that. The thing is, it looks like he doesn't have any of that in this. It just looks like. I tell you what it looks like, and again, maybe you've seen this film, Cheeto. It looks like that. Do you remember that Dracula Unleashed film that they made like about 5 years ago?
No, I don't think I've
with Luke Evans. With Luke Evans, where he plays Count Dracula and he becomes like a vampire to fight some guy that he had a problem with.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one.
Very much that, rather than that tragic story that I just told you about, which would be like 10 times more interesting than this.
Well, it's a little bit.
I think.
Oh, go ahead, B-Man. Hello, Daniel Vance.
The one thing that, for me at least, that I really appreciated about the trailer, this had a modern feel of the monster movies from back in the day, and I know that that's not necessarily what it is, but I know that that's kind of what the character was sort of inspired from. I know it's not a literal translation of Dracula. I know that's not what the character is, but I know that's sort of what it was inspired from. And I felt that, given the fact that Sony is trying to establish its own partial universe, with Venom, and it still has its hands tied to Spider-Man somewhat, and it's trying to do Sinister Six, and it's trying to do its own universe per se, I felt that Morbius, I felt that it had its own vibe. So even though it did feel somewhat dark, it did have its own flavor. Somewhat like how, when you go back to the 80s, how Superman had, it was bright, happy. Then you had Tim Burton's Batman, which was very gothic. They both were two very separate entities. And so to me, this felt very different than, say, Venom. I mean, they were both dark, but they had two different vibes to them. And I could appreciate that. For me, this isn't necessarily something that I would watch if it wasn't a comic book. But I definitely would watch knowing that it is connected to Spider-Man, knowing that it is connected to Venom. And I like the fact that in this recent trailer, they had the "I'm Venom, I'm just kidding." That right there was enough to, knowing that in the last Venom movie that they tied it to Spider-Man, knowing, okay, all these things are connected, so this is going to connect somehow. And that's why I say I think that it's very interesting. That video that you sent me of just how connected that this character is. He's not an A-list character, but he's always kind of the backbone of these stories that he's involved with. Even when they took his vampire-ish powers away for like that 8-year period, I think it was
9 years.
Where he was human, he still was in the background as a smarty pants scientist. That I found interesting, where he was still in the background helping people out. And I felt that was interesting, where, man, I could imagine that in the background of the MCU helping these characters out, where I think that's really interesting, where just at this point in the MCU, I could imagine this character really going out and helping, where, Tony Stark, when he first started out, nobody would have even thought he would have gotten a movie, let alone, be the foundation of a franchise.
And I agree with you on the Tony Stark thing. I always thought Iron Man was a B-list character. So when I first heard of Iron Man coming out, and keep in mind, I'm not the biggest Iron Man fan, but when I first heard Iron Man was coming out, I was like, oh man, they must be getting desperate.
Yeah.
I really did, because I was just like, I didn't know of Marvel Studios or anything like that back then. I just thought it was another Marvel franchise doing, another live action movie, because they pretty much done X-Men and Spider-Man to death.
Yeah. I kind of felt like you're not scraping bottom of the barrel. You're kind of under that barrel, and boy, were we wrong.
I mean, even with Robert Downey Jr., and he's perfect for the role, I still don't like Iron Man any much more. I'm more of a Captain America, Thor. I like them out of the big six. I kind of like them better, but and Black Widow. Wow. But,
Like, I gotta say, with the whole Marvel thing, like I grew up a DC fan. I didn't like Marvel at all, because I was kind of part of that whole you're either DC or you're Marvel, and I gotta say, the MCU, like these movies, for everybody that gives them shit, like I these movies made me a fan of that whole comic universe. So I don't know these characters. So when you sent me that link of, hey, here, get to know Morbius before we do the show, dude, this is all like crack to me. I'm happy. I'm like, yay, So I'm going to watch this movie. I have no knowledge of this, so it's great for me as a fan, not knowing these characters. I'm glad that we live in this day and age of getting to know these people.
And I mean, I'm one of those people that were okay with the Morbius movie. I thought it was an interesting character, an interesting choice. I just hate the actor they picked, Jared. And I mean, I know Gary agrees with me. Were you gonna say something, Gary?
No, I was just nodding. Yeah, as I said, like, it reminds me a lot of, and I've quoted this effect before, the Marlon Brando effect, where he's got to that point now that he's so famous that nobody can tell him no anymore.
God, I wish somebody would tell him no.
What is?
Because there was a time when Marlon Brando got to that point where no one would tell him no. Like, there's an infamous film, I think it's The Island Dr. Monroe, where he's in that, and he wears an ice bucket on his head, and nobody told him, had the guts to tell him, don't do that. And General Letters got to that point now that no one will tell him no anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
See, I don't know anything about what you guys are talking about. What all
He's
I don't know
basically
anything
saying,
about
like,
this.
Jared Leto is to the point where people just are afraid to tell him no, don't do things, because of all the controversial things that he did during filming of other movies, where he was sending used condoms to co-stars and
AW.
severed, what was it,
Oh.
dead pig bodies and severed heads of
R-
horses.
Rat-
No, rat corpses and
Yeah, rat
dead
Yeah.
pigs
corpses
and
and
anal
stuff.
beads, includes condoms and bloody God knows what else.
Like yeah, I mean, there's a getting inside the head of your character, and then there's that, and that's just
I don't
you just
recall Joker ever do that in any comic books I read, but hey.
well, but yeah, and I don't remember Joker doing well. I mean, maybe the severed head things and the dead rats, but I mean, not the like the used condoms and stuff like that's just him wanting to be weird and him, yeah, just wanting to get away with
crossing
it.
lines.
Yeah, he wants to
Yeah.
cross lines and get away with it. And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, it's just him. He's getting in the character of Joker." And yeah, it's like, you know what? You all just need to fess up and just be like, "Yeah, this is fucking weird, and we shouldn't really be doing this with him. And we shouldn't be
Well,
letting
when-
him get
when
away
you-
with this."
Well, when you go back to Heath Ledger as Joker, like he he locked himself up for, I think it was like a month, and he wrote a diary of like, this is what the Joker would write, and it, he didn't give it to nobody. He kept it for himself and got into character inside his own head. And that's a far cry from what you guys were describing. Like, I know what you're talking about, because Margot Robbie talked about that, and so did Will Smith. And like Margot Robbie kind of was, when she talked about it, was kind of like, yeah, he kind of did this, and
But that's the
you
problem,
could tell
though,
that she was.
nobody's willing to tell him no. Like, you don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, God knows what he
Standards,
did.
man, standards.
God knows what he did to get in character for this vampire. Did he go around dressed like Dracula? God knows.
Probably he's trying to bite people's necks and
Yeah.
crap like that. Like, okay, so just kind of highlighting a little bit of Morbius's powers and stuff like that. So he's got the stereotypical,
Vampire
stuff.
powers.
It's super strength, flight. He has a genetic disorder, which I guess wouldn't be a power, but he has genetic disorder which he has to feed on live blood to supplement whatever he's missing in his blood. So that is why he technically becomes a vampire. And I believe in the original comics and what I was reading and looking at, because I think I've read Amazing Spider-Man 101, which was his first appearance, like one time in my life. When I had a free subscription to Marvel Comics online or whatever. So I think that was one of the ones I paged through. But he originally wasn't supposed to be like a vampire. He was just supposed to look like a vampire. And he kind of just had some of these attributes, but eventually they kind of rolled him into the whole vampire thing with biting necks and everything like that. And I mean, okay, as Morbius as a concept, what do you guys think? Like, I think the character is interesting. I don't think the basis of the it's hard to describe. I feel like this whole vampire basis that he's on is kind of lame, but the character of Michael Morbius is more interesting than that, like than the actual Morbius the Living Vampire, in my opinion. He's always been like a very dark and gritty bad guy, but as I said, my first experience was in the animated series, and he sucked so much ass.
I disagree. I think he's a very interesting character, and I'll explain why. Because he's a very tragic character.
No. Hold on, you weren't listening to me. I said I feel like I've said the vampire aspect of his of his character, like the Michael Morbius aspect of it, like the tragedy and everything like that, like the disease and everything. That is interesting. That is good. I like that piece of it. But like just being a generic vampire, like him going around biting necks and stuff, like it's just that's a part that I'm like, okay, really, like okay.
So you think it could have been something else?
I mean, he could have gotten his supplement somewhere else, like not going around just biting necks, if he had this blood disorder, maybe he has to I don't know. I'm
like blood sugars or that what was that one individual series where that thing with that green
True
thing
blood.
where salt in somebody's skin or something like that. It's all the potassium out of somebody's skin or something like that.
I don't know.
It was in the original series where it could shapeshift into different beings.
I don't know. I just the generic vampireness of it. I mean, at least it doesn't sparkle in the daylight, but still, I mean,
for me, I don't mind a vampire. Like if this had been me, like maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I probably would have been like, oh, vampires are cool. The Twilight phase and the True Blood phase of like vampires, I feel like got oversaturated in modern media of vampires. Looking at it in context of the 1960s and 70s and the early 80s, it wouldn't have been like a bad idea to do it back then because those things weren't oversaturated. But if you're looking at it like in modern time, it's kind of like, God, we've kind of been vampired out, because I mean, we went through how many seasons of True Blood where it was just been done to death. Same thing with the Twilight movies. It was just like, man, we can't talk about vampires without, like you made the sparkle joke, it's just kind of overdone. But if you go back to it when it was first done, vampires were very cool. It's like when you go back to the 80s and you talk about, hey, you want to go watch a movie? 9 times out of 10, you throw a rock, you're going to hit a muscle-bound action movie. It's just what the concept was at the time. Like, this is kind of a cool thing. So it doesn't really bother me all that much, but it's all in how they present it. And like you talk about, the character is a tragic character. To me, it's, if they can present that, then the vampire part really won't bother me as much, because with True Blood, it just got into sex and drugs and drama, and I'm not into it for that. With the Twilight stuff, that's teen drama shit, and I don't want to watch that. That's lame. So if you can present to me the character that I'm interpreting from the comics that I've seen from the video you showed me, which is a tragic character that he's got this disease, he wants to cure himself, and he's struggling through how many years to cure himself, and he knows all these other people and they can't help cure him, and it's just it's a tragic story. And when he does bite someone, he feels guilty, and that was the thing that was different than other vampires. Other vampires, they're eating people like chicken nuggets. This guy does, and he feels bad. Rolls. Yeah, there you go. Yes, pizza rolls. This guy feels bad. That's something that's different. To me, that's an interesting concept. So if they present that, which it looks like they are, I'm willing to go down that road with you. So
yeah, because I mean, the thing is that the Morbius character, what's interesting about him is that his vampirism is not something that he embraces; it's something that he is ashamed of. And I think that the thing is that if they look into that aspect, it becomes good. Because, like, if you look at any stereotypical vampire, they're seductive. They actually want to be a vampire. They want to make other people vampires. So you look at like any vampire movie like Dracula, Dust of Dawn, Near Dark, any film like that. Actually, these are really good vampire films. And the thing is that I think it's like anything else. If it's well done, then it doesn't matter what it is. It's, again, I'm well known to having issues with zombies. It's not because I have a problem with zombies. I have the fact that if it's just another generic zombie stories, but if it's well done, like I for a long time was a fan of The Walking Dead because it's a unique take on that zombie formula. Until it just got until it got a little bit. The episodes got a little bit samey, where again it came up about the zombie threat and how they would work around that, and it got more about the personal dramas between the two. And I was like, even though I was into that, I wasn't into it as much as that aspect of trying to deal with the zombie threat. And with this, as I said, like I don't have a problem with vampire films. I have a problem with if it's a good vampire film, and this doesn't look like it's a good one. It doesn't look like it's added anything. It's still a good story with that premise, if that makes sense.
So, quick question. So, do you guys want this? Obviously, this is based in a Spider-Man universe. We don't know which one. I mean, we've seen Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man on like a wall, on a poster. Some people have speculated that it's Andrew Garfield because of some things. People are saying that it's proper MCU, which I do not believe that is true. what universe do we want this to be in? I personally would love it if this was in Tobey Maguire's universe.
How old is Tobey Maguire? What,
He's
40,
freaking old. In his
40
40s,
something?
45, I think.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
almost 50.
I'm gonna Google that now. No, 1 second.
But I mean, like, the reason why I say Tobey Maguire's is just because I don't know. I mean,
He's
go back.
46.
I just don't want it to be MCU proper, at least not yet. I mean, obviously, at the end of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, they teased about Venom being in the MCU proper, or Spider-Man being in the Venom universe proper. So they're teasing things that we don't know how they play out just yet. So I'm really interested to see how they play that. But do I really want to see like Jared Leto in like a big Spider-Man crossover with Maximum Carnage? I'm not even talking Jared Leto. I'm talking Morbius. I just say Jared Leto because he's the idiot on my mind. I kind of, I mean, if it, I kind of do, but I kind of don't because I don't want Jared Leto. But at the same time, I kind of want Morbius teaming up because they're building for Maximum Carnage in Venom 3. Period. Like that's going to be it. That's going to. I mean, I know that there's roadblocks to that at this point in this movie, but I really feel like they're going to have a somewhat of a Maximum Carnage. It's going to be like Civil War. Like the Civil War in the comics was not the same as the Civil War in the movie. So I think Maximum Carnage in the comics is not going to be the same as Maximum Carnage on the film.
Okay, but I would say that I would rather it with Andrew Garfield because again, Andrew Garfield, in my opinion, again, this is not fact, this is my opinion, has been the best cinematic Spider-Man. No, nothing against Tobey Maguire, nothing against Tom Holland. They're both great actors.
I hate Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It's not the fact that I want to see Tobey Maguire. I just think that he would fit into that universe better. But I agree with you. I think Andrew Garfield's would I like to see Andrew Garfield face off against Morbius? Absolutely.
And considering how shittily he was treated by that franchise, he deserves a good one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man way more than I like Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire was boring and whiny and just dumb. Like I hated him. You can ask any of my friends. I walked out of every single Spider-Man movie going, yeah, the villain was Boss, but God, Tobey Maguire sucks.
I think personally, I don't think he's going to be in Andrew or Toby's universe. I think because Michael Keaton as the Vulture was seen in the preview. In the trailer. I think honestly it's going to be in shoot, what's little Spidey's name?
Tom Holland.
I think it's going to be in Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Just because they're kind of syncing stuff up, much in the same way with Venom. They're kind of lining that stuff up. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe the Michael Keaton at the very maybe Michael shows up at the very end and it really takes place in the same universe that Tom Hardy, his Venom was at. But I mean the thing. But I mean the thing is, like, we have the Daily Bugle in the background. We have the I mean, in the paper you have a Black Cat reference. And who else was a reference to? Oh shoot, I forget what it was. It was something, but it was asking like friend or foe, but it was on the Daily Bugle. But I mean, so Black Cat exists in that universe, and I don't think Black Cat exists in this universe so far. So it does. I don't know. Like that raises a good question.
But there was a Felicia Hardy in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was
very true.
So
and that's if I had my preference and not what I think, I would rather it be Andrew Garfield's because I feel like he kind of got the shit end of the stick.
You did.
Yeah, like I mean, I feel like for him, I hated his Spider-Man, but I loved his Peter Parker because I feel like he was really charming. And I feel like his I feel like his Spider-Man was kind of a douche. But I feel like his Peter Parker was pretty charming of a guy. Even though his Peter was, more cooler than I ever was in high school. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm like, how could this guy be a nerd when he's like, I mean, he's pretty cool. Look at that hair. As
nerds
my
are
hair.
cool nowadays. I mean, look at us. We are on this highly acclaimed podcast talking at.
I've always said you were the cool. I've always said you were the coolest guy I know, Cheeto.
Nah.
And Gary, you are pretty boss, Gary.
He's like boss, man.
There you go. There we go. But no, I'd rather it be Andrew because he really didn't get much.
So I mean, let's say that they are building, because Morbius was, of course, Black Cat was also in Maximum Carnage. If they are building towards this Maximum Carnage crossover.
Question:
Mm-hmm.
Where are you getting that from? I haven't heard that from anyone. Where are you getting that from?
I'm just saying what I think they're building towards.
Because I just brought Carnage into the films with the Let There Be Carnage. The only problem I've got is the fact that Venom now exists outside of Spider-Man, and I mean that he doesn't have the spider thing on his chest anymore. He hasn't. Again, they just basically created it without the connection to Spider-Man. So I don't think they really can do Maximum Carnage.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, with all this timey-wimey multiversal stuff, I think that they're building towards it. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, you got Morbius now. I mean, you could have a Black Cat. All you got to do is cast her.
Would you cast that?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'm bad with casting. Like, if you ask me who, like, I'd have to sit there and look through actresses and stuff like that. I would say that the lady that played Jen Erso, the one who actually played Felicia Hardy in Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'd kind of look into her because she's still relatively young. I feel like she could still be a decent Black Cat because that's what they were building towards anyway.
Interesting.
I'm thinking what would happen is Spider-Man would come over from MCU to Venomverse, and then they would have to deal with Carnage. Now, as I said, with the events of Let There Be Carnage, there might have to be some shenanigans there as to how Carnage is back, but I guess we'll just have to figure that out.
Also, there could be a bigger problem, which is I think that the Venom movies were outside Sony's thing.
No, Venom is much in Sony's.
I thought it was Marvel. I thought it was Marvel.
No.
Let's look at Venom. Let me have a look.
No, Venom is definitely Sony.
I don't think it would be that hard to get Carnage because I mean you have how many other how many versions of these characters coming over from different universes. All you have to do is say, hey, we know there's another version of Venom out there. Voila, hey, we have this other version of Carnage, and let's start this storyline. I mean,
yeah,
really, I don't think it would be.
That could be a way to do it.
Yeah, I don't think it would be all that hard. Venom, knows there's another Venom out there now, and all of a sudden, boom, there's another Carnage. It's like
2 Carnage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be all that hard.
And they need to cast somebody else because honestly, I love Woody Harrelson. Don't get me wrong, I love him, but
that wig. Oh, fuck that wig.
Yeah, Cletus Cassidy, not so much. And I'm not even saying he did a bad job. I think he did a fine job, but I mean, still, like, I think they need to cast somebody a little bit younger.
Yeah, because someone more appropriate.
Yeah,
because I mean, you had that 70s show guy play Eddie Brock in another universe, and you had Tom Hardy play our current Venom. So I mean, you really could do that as an excuse to have another another Venom. I mean, and we have 3 different actors playing Spidey. So yeah, you use this as an excuse to have another Carnage if you're going to go that route.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a good... I mean, as I said, I would like to see a Maximum Carnage. I know it's not going to be a page-by-page adaptation. You're not going to have Demo Goblin and Doppelganger. I mean, you could. They've already got Carnage, Shriek. I mean, you could, easily throw in another villain like Carrion. Or, I mean, you could do Demo Goblin, but it'd be a hard sell. Ooh, sorry. But yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it would be, but they need to do it right. It needs to be rated R if they're going to do Maximum Carnage, and I know they're probably not going to do it. So, Okay, well, do you guys mind if I jump into my show and tell that I brought?
No, go ahead.
Unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about, anything Morbius wise you want to talk about and finish up with.
I've already bitched about People Are Strange being used.
Yeah.
As I said, the only thing I would say is that you need to turn the lights on. Yeah, because again, like just because it's a dark film doesn't mean that you can't use some good lighting.
This is true.
I mean, hell, Batman Begins was a dark film, and they managed to bring some lights in. I actually saw what was going on in that film.
All right. Well, gentlemen and gentlemen's, I brought some show and tells.
Nice.
So this is a Peter Parker Spider-Man number 77 through 80. And this is one of my first comic book experiences outside of Maximum Carnage with Morbius the Living Vampire. And what this is this is written by Mackey, Howard Mackey. And the first issue is just kind of like it's kind of just like Spider-Man and Morbius running into one another. He saves this lady from getting sucked to death. And then in the end, Peter gets bitten by Morbius. So he gets the bite. Of course, Morbius doesn't kill him because Spidey's got super strength, so he doesn't kill. So that's a lot of fun. Yeah. And it's snowy too, as you can see in the next issue, which is 78. This is one of my favorite covers. It is on the thumbnail for this. I love this cover. This is like my favorite Morbius cover. But in this one, it's basically the ramifications of Spider-Man getting bitten. We find out that the scientist that Morbius was going after actually was somebody working on a cure. And she wanted to help him. So what happened is Spider-Man again and Morbius fight because Spider-Man's still looking for Morbius and catches up with him with her. They fight for a little bit, and then Spider-Man passes out because he's dumb and does not give himself time to rest. And that's the story of Peter all over. Like he's like on death's door, and he's like, "Oh, I can be out there looking for so and so." Yeah, okay, call an Avenger.
But it's friendly neighborhood.
Yeah, well,
friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
So issue number 79, it kind of gets a little bit of weird at this point. You can see Morbius right up here. This is Shock, and I can't remember this guy's name. I looked it up, but that's this basically gets Hydra involved in the whole thing because it turns out the Doctor works for Hydra. Hail Hydra. So what happens is that they're trying to I don't know, they're trying to reverse engineer something in Morbius's blood, I think, to make someone young again or something. I don't remember. It's stupid. It kind of gets weird. And so yeah, there's this guy, this big guy. There's like the Enforcer, the guy with the eye patch. It's not Baron von Strucker. He's in this, but he is not like that old guy right there. That guy's some other old guy. And I don't remember his name either. I really should probably look that up. But yeah, we get Hydra. So, and that guy, the blue guy, is Shock. I actually kind of like that guy. He's one of my memorable ones from growing up. I really liked his kind of look and the way he did like things. So I wouldn't mind a return of Shock. I don't know if he's dead or not, but it's just a cool little, like the imagery of Shock is just really cool. You can kind of see him up here too. On the next one, number 80, you see Morbius way back here. And then actually this guy right here, that's Hammerhead. So it's another one of those issues where you get a bunch of B and C list characters that come to Spidey's aid, and then they fight off the bad guys. Spidey's always got like that crazy team up amount of stuff going on. But yeah, I mean, this really does play into Morbius's like tragic background, and then in these issues, he's getting used. Like it's not even like he's genuinely trying to find a cure, and now he's getting used by Hydra for this thing. So it's almost like you put him down even further into the depths of this being abused and stuff like that. So I don't know. What do you guys think of that? I mean, it's a lot to swallow. Kind of sounds like typical 90s Marvel because these came out in 97. But these are some of my first memories of comic book Spider-Man, because I started collecting in 96 and 95, I think. So, these were some of the first years I started collecting, and this is kind of some of the first Spider-Man stuff that I got. So, kind of gave me a new perspective on Sir Morbius.
To me, it it looking at the comics and the way the 90s were with the art and the story directions they had, like everybody was kind of crossing over, and it raises the question. I know Daniel Vance said give me more Dark Universe stuff. Let me ask you a question.
Me?
Do you think that the fact that they're doing Morbius, and I know that they're trying to branch off into doing their universes of like Venom and Spider-Man and whatnot, do you think that they're gonna do they're gonna kind of do the Dark Universe type stuff with
I hope
all
so.
those?
They've got a lot of good characters, and honestly, Morbius is one of them. I hope they do Blade justice. Morbius is not bad.
Well,
Ghost Rider's a good one.
isn't it going to be Mahershala Ali? The guy who won 2 Oscars. But the thing is, nothing against him, but Wesley Snipes is Blade to me, and I know that that's saying, oh, you're going to say that. No. It's like because again, it's like when an actor's done a role as well as you can do a role, you can't help but see that actor in it. I'm sorry.
But I'm sorry. Like that's not a way to be though, because these people get older and they age out of roles. Look at Robert Downey Jr. Like if we ever reboot the MCU, like people are just gonna have to get over the fact that Robert Downey's not going to be Iron Man. So I mean, like, and especially since Blade, like, if Blade was in the MCU already, I would say, okay, well then we need to cast another Blade with another identity.
Well, it's like Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. I can't picture another actor as Wolverine at this point. I mean, there probably is going to be one eventually, but again, I associate him with that role so much. And again, I'm trying to think of another one. I don't know. Matt Damon as Jason Bourne. That's another one. Or I'm trying to think of another one. What's his name now? I'm trying to think of another one. The thing is, with Batman and stuff like that, or Joker or anything else, we've seen other actors play them before they were played better by another actor. Again, we weren't precious about those.
Yeah, but I mean, I get it. Wesley Snipes is awesome. I like Wesley Snipes, but at the same time, we've only had one Blade. How do we know? Like, how do we know there's not a better Blade out there?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we did have the TV show, and that wasn't too bad. I mean, it was a departure. No, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it's a departure. I mean, it had a lot of elements from the movies, but it's definitely better than Blade 3.
But a turn on the plate is better than Blade 3.
Is what? What did you say? I didn't hear you.
I was just saying, like a turn on the plate is better than Blade 3. Blade 3 was terrible.
Well, and as I said, I mean, I think that we could get another Blade that's just as good as Wesley Snipes. I know it'll be weird to see, but I mean, we've had multiple Spider-Mans, we've had multiple everything. I mean, I feel like it can happen, and I feel like, especially with a good actor in the role, I think they can be just as good as Wesley Snipes.
Well, Michelle Ali's a great actor, so yeah.
But I mean, I would not mind them doing like a Marvel Knights type scenario where it's like all the darker characters, like Ghost Rider, Punisher, Moon Knight, Daredevil, Elektra, obviously Blade, and Morbius, and you can bring in and out some. I mean, I don't want to do like a Legends of Tomorrow type thing, but I kind of do. you know. So I don't know. I kind of want it, but I think Marvel Knights is an amazing idea for like either a show or a movie that has all of these characters. And I mean, you know, I want Josh Brenthal to come back as the Punisher. I want Charlie Cox to come back as Daredevil. You know, but at the same time, I'll have to get over the fact these characters might be recast in the future. So, but I think Marvel Knights would be a fantastic avenue for a lot of these guys, and I don't want them to do it like they did with Defenders. You know, have a show and then go into a joint show. I feel like they tried it; it didn't work very well. I feel like maybe
Aren't they doing?
but
Aren't they doing a Moon Knight movie?
they are doing a Moon Knight, yeah,
or a show?
threw him in there.
Okay, I was now. Who are they doing? How far are they along in production of that? And is it a movie or is it a show? Because like I said, I just saw a caption somewhere, and that's about all I know.
It's a show. It's a Disney Plus show. They're filming now. It's because Oscar. They they're filming or they completed filming because Oscar Isaac has posted some stuff about filming. But I mean, he's kind of like Marvel's version of Batman. Like you know, that's what people compare him to a lot. I don't see the parallels verbatim, but I do. I mean, he's like a Dark Knight stalker, but he runs around in a big white costume. So I mean, it's kind of hard to equate him to Batman when he's like in white. The entire like you know, like you can definitely see him coming. Okay, so we have gone on for about 45 minutes. I've shared the comic book. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, for me, I'm good. I'm excited for the film. I didn't know anything about the guy before you showed me the video beforehand. So I'm excited just from the fact that I'm getting a new character to at least say, tried it, wasn't for me. So I'm excited.
Bossman?
I'm interested in the character and the concept, but I think that the way that they've done the film just looks like another generic vampire movie to me. Which
It
I
doesn't
think
look
is
like a generic vampire movie to me. I just don't like Jared Leto. Like, I just really don't. I actually feel like this is pretty. It feels kind of unique, but keep in mind, I don't watch a lot of the vampire zombie horror movies, so this might be something that's been done before, and I'm just like ignorant to it. So, yeah, I don't know. So, all right, guys. With that all being said, I thank you very much for joining me for Quips and Thwips based on Morbius. I'll probably try to do another one of these in the near future, like in the next couple, next month or something like that. I don't think there's anything really. Oh, Spider-Man: Far From Home's coming out, so I might do one of these next month right around the time Spider-Man: Far From Home comes out. So, not Far From Home.
Awesome.
No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yeah.
Yeah. So once we have a chance to watch No Way Home, and then we can all splooge over all the Spider-Man villains that show up. So. Yeah, I'll probably plan for that. The weekend of No Way Home, which I think actually isn't that Christmas weekend? I'm trying to remember. That might be Christmas weekend.
I don't know. There's been so many rumors and half truths and bald faced lies. I've kind of stayed away from it, not from the fact that I'm not excited, but just from the fact that I have no idea what's true, what's not. So I don't know, man. I'm just very excited, because it's one of those things where it's like if I keep listening to all these people who are upset that there's no second trailer, I'm gonna get myself into a funk. So I'm trying to stay optimistic because I'm very excited. I mean,
honestly, I don't feel like I feel like we get too many trailers. I feel like one teaser, like 1 minute teaser, and then one full trailer is all we like with these MCU movies. You don't have to now you don't have to sell me. Now with the Eternals, it's a little different because their first trailer didn't give me too much, and I wasn't that interested. The recent trailer they did got me a little more hyped for it, but I'm still kind of like on the fence because I don't know Eternals. Like like the way you are with Morbius, I'm with the Eternals. Like I've read comic books for years. I've heard of the Eternals, but I have no idea what's going on with them. I know they live a long time, and they help with mutants and stuff like that. So I mean, everyone's probably hyped that mutants might be coming and yada yada and so on and so forth. So I don't know.
Well, Well, I know everybody said the movie was boring. To me, I don't know if the movie was boring or if it was just a slow burn movie. Because for me, I'll sit there and let a movie be a slow burn because those don't really bother me. So, what may be boring for everybody else might be just right up my alley. So to me, it's like, I mean, I probably will still go see it, but the trailers really didn't do much of anything. It didn't get me excited to go see the movie. But then again, Shang-Chi, I think the movie was. That none of the trailers got me excited to go see it, but I loved the movie. So, I agree with you though on I think we get too many trailers. I think we're spoiled. So.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that trailers are supposed to get you hyped for a movie and not just show you every bit of the movie, if that makes sense.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that was the thing. Like, go back to like Batman 1989. They had basically the same footage, but just re-edited, like 15 different ways. But it was the same footage, and that's all they ever showed us was the same footage over and over and over, and we were all hyped. But I mean, they didn't give us anything new. They didn't show us anything, and we all saw the movie.
Well, look at
You
Endgame.
know,
They gave us nothing in the trailer. Like compared to what was in the movie, they gave us nothing. I thought.
right?
I
Well,
we
everybody was losing their mind over not getting anything from Endgame, and people were like, "We're going to boycott this movie." And I sat back going, "You're not going to fucking boycott this movie." Like,
no, it
no,
made more money than like
yeah,
freaking
like who are
Taj
you kidding?
Mahal.
Yeah, you're not going to boycott this. You're gonna be in front row. You're not going to boycott this. Like
No,
at the
yeah,
end of the day,
honestly,
like
I hope
we're
they
all,
didn't. I hope they missed it opening night because screw you guys.
I mean, at the end of the day, like we're all interested in what we're going to be interested in, and we're all going to see what we're going to see.
Well, and I think just to your point, and I know we're trying to wrap it up, but just to your point about like the movie being boring, it's probably a decent movie. It's just we're so used to Marvel hitting like all of these like epic finales. It's like I kind of want a movie where I don't have a freaking epic finale. I go back to like going from Captain America: Civil War to uh Doctor Strange. Like we go from this really big Avengers 2.5 movie to like Doctor Strange and like not huge scope. Like it doesn't seem like a huge scope, at least at that point.
right,
And that's I
right.
kind of need that. Like Endgame, and then I mean, I guess Black Widow was the same way, but it just I don't really need huge, massive scope. That was one of my big issues with Shang-Chi was that there was too much scope at the end. I felt like it was a bit much for my taste. Like I
Well,
felt
if
like
you go
Shang-Chi should have started smaller.
Well, if you go back to like Captain America: The First Avenger, that was a great film, and the scope of it was very small, and I loved that.
And actually,
You know, it,
I think they went over the top at the end with the helicarriers
yeah,
and everything. I really felt like they
yeah,
went over the top. I was like, I mean, maybe if there was one helicarrier and they had to fight the Winter Soldier on the helicarrier, that would have been fine. But like three helicarriers and crashing through and blah blah blah, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is a bit much.
Yeah.
you mean the second Captain America? You mean? I meant the first one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking the Winter Soldier. Sorry. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. No, the Captain, like it was very much a World War II or World
Yeah.
War One. Which one was it? World War II? Yeah, World War II. Yeah, it was very much an old time war movie where the stakes are very small, but it's very personal. And then it's one person kind of standing up and making a difference. It's a very small scale, but I mean it's very impactful in what what would impact the world. I mean in terms of and I say small scale in terms of where we're at. For what move, for each movie we get now, which is a universal scale, Guardians of the Galaxy type scale, Crisis type scale of what we get now. When you go back and look at it, I don't mind a slow burn. I don't mind a small scale. Those things don't mind. They don't bother me. Look at what DC does in terms of every movie we get is basically a crisis level crossover where we don't need it. I mean, look, the Flash movie is basically a crossover event. He's not even really the star of his own movie. We're all chomping at the bit to go look at Michael Keaton's the first look of him in the costume. We don't even really care about the Flash in
Yeah,
his own movie.
that's one of the things that worries me about it. Like when they said Michael Keaton was coming back, I was kind of excited. I'm like, okay, but now they got Ben Affleck's Batman showing up, and now they say that I think somebody said Cyborg. This is not confirmed, but I thought I heard Cyborg was showing up in it, and it's like you're right. He's not even. And the problem is that the storyline of Flashpoint, if they go with that storyline, it is a Justice League a Justice League story. It is not a just Flash. It is a Flash centered Justice League story.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And
you know,
that's
yeah.
yeah, every time you get those type, you know, and so to me, I don't mind stepping back and saying a small scale movie or a slower movie. I don't mind.
I
You know,
like
and having
Ant-Man and the
characters.
Wasp.
Yeah, I agree.
I needed Ant-Man and the Wasp after how huge like an Endgame was. I needed Ant-Man and the Wasp.
A fun movie. Yeah.
I was like, oh
Dude,
my
how
gosh. Or no, I'm sorry, Infinity War, not Endgame. Infinity War.
Yeah.
After Infinity War, I'm like, I need to step back for a second.
I mean, how many of us were thinking about Baskin Robbins, you know, after that scene in Ant-Man, you know, just you know, just good old time fun in Ant-Man, you know, both of them, you know, it's sometimes you need those, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going off topic here.
I know we're way off topic. All right, guys. Well, I thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for going on Tangent Station with me. We'll ride that rail until it falls off the hinge. Anyway,
all right.
I'll catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.
All right.
Ciao.
Take care.